So this is a digital music trends coverage of South by Southwest 2013, and it's the first day of the music festival. And I'm here with Frank Johnson, the CEO of the company Medianet. So hi Frank, and great to have you on the show. How's it going today?
It's very good. Thanks for having me this afternoon. Look forward to chatting with you.
Yeah, so let's talk about Medianet on a broad stroke first, just to fill people in as to what you guys do.
Medianet provides a suite of tools, technologies, services, content, licensing, and enabling technologies to allow companies, consumer electronics companies, retailers, large brands, anyone who wants to offer a digital media experience, primarily in music, to design, build, launch, manage, and candidly report on the content that they use and sell and distribute.
Of course. And the company used to be called Musicnet, and then it became Medianet. So when did you guys switch over, and when did you realize that you wanted to expand into different fields as well?
In 2009, the company did two things. It really relaunched its platform from what was historically supporting very large services like Zune, AOL, Yahoo, all the large services that were very early on in the digital music area. And when the company did that, it also decided to enable digital media across all media, so books, games, movies, premium video content, user-generated content. Still stuck to its core around music. We do some in the other areas, and we're going to continue. We're going to grow that area this year. It's an area of growth for us, and a lot of interest from folks in terms of using that platform for really internal web services platforms, and also building their own app platforms as well.
Yeah, sure. And on the music front, of course, we've moved on from just the pure downloads and into streaming, and then into even more alternative uses of the music by third-party applications and services. So how do you cater for services that kind of fall a little bit outside of the traditional models that you may already have in place?
Well, Medianet can serve any digital music experience. Its history has been supporting streaming literally back in the early days of Microsoft's products and Yahoo, Launchcast. All those were combinations of streaming. A lot of DRM, if you remember the days of DRM, Plays for Sure. Medianet or Musicnet at the time supported all of those technologies and all of those digital security features. So it's been doing streaming, been doing downloads, been doing conditional downloads, which you might see, for example, in a service like Move, for example, for going on almost 12, 13 years now. Today, we see a huge surge in streaming, just MP3 streaming. We still see a lot of non-traditional uses. We service kiosks, business venue services you might see in a restaurant or store, and believe it or not, still quite a bit of downloads going on that we support in the most traditional way. Yeah,
sure. And of course, Medianet has an API that clients can access to get the content they require, and you've also been working with some of the hackdays and sort of looking into that space. How do you see sort of the way in which your API functions evolve over time, and perhaps cater to different uses by hackers or by people that may want to just use it to play around with it for a little bit with no commercial really intention?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So we've got a primary platform which serves very large enterprise customers, very customized solutions. You might look at, for example, a service like Beats that might be launching. We also have a platform that sits on top of that, which we call our open platform, and that's where folks who are trying to develop services who are sorting out their business models, testing technologies, and we've got a model that allows them to use that. It's our own version of a sandbox, if you will, where they can access the content, the technologies, the tools, all through an API. Don't need us to interfere or interact. They can just come to the website. We also have a program where they need a little more help and support and integration support. We can do that as well. And so that's been a really good approach for us to really help those companies that haven't quite figured out their model, number one, or larger companies that are testing and haven't been ready to go to market and want to really use it as a platform for testing their models.
Sure. And how do you guys look at the recommendation space? Is this something that you want to leave to third parties to sort out, or are you actually looking actively into it yourselves?
Well, today the recommendation to discovery space is really interesting. There's some very good providers in that space that focus specifically on doing that. So we integrate with those kind of companies. What we do in terms of some sort of lighter versions of that is really intended to allow companies to, again, test or really internal work. It's not consumer-centric, if you will, or facing outward. There are companies like Econest is a good example where we'll partner with them, and we're fully integrated with their APIs and with their IDs as well. They do a really good job. That's all they principally focus on.
Yeah, exactly. And moving on from the content fulfillment side and the actual access to the music, one of the big areas of need and growth is also the licensing of music. Looking at for example, publishing clearances and all that side of things,
Yes.
which is a huge area where there's not that many companies that actually work actively into it. Rightsflow was one of them, but they got acquired by Google, and now they don't really operate to outward-facing clients anymore. So there's something that you guys are really looking into, right?
So we've recently launched, as of the beginning of this year, our own service to supply rights acquisition around publishing, as well as administration of those rights and payment and reporting and compliance for those rights.
Awesome.
We did it as a response to our customers trying to simplify their supply chain and to have to work and reduce the number of people they have to work with. For folks who deliver digital media experiences, it's challenging to integrate, working with third parties, multiple third parties. You're doing a lot of ID matching and integration. And so enabling them to really work with one full service partner that does not only the content acquisition and content management, also fulfillment and then reporting all the way through publishing, has been something very well received. We serve a rights managed catalog, so it comes with recording rights from the labels, and now we've always been providing publishing rights, but now we're able to provide much more customized solutions for folks, and more importantly, and the part that's really hard is to ensure they get reported and paid and the compliance is right.
Of course, and so in a sense, like you already have a lot of data from what you've been doing all along, and you just you created an extra layer of understanding for that to provide this new service, right?
Yeah, it was really natural for us to enter this business. We have very sophisticated content ingestion and management systems that are built to deal with just an incredibly high volume of track ingestion and content ingestion and metadata ingestion. So we were able to basically look at that and add and extend the databases out to add a publishing layer. So now we can match the actual track, the compositions to the tracks, and so we can, when a track is played, we now know who the publishers, the writers, the administrators are, and we can align those. Yeah,
absolutely, it's great. And so, in terms of expanding along those lines, do you have any specific targets in terms of the type of company that you'd like to have on board?
Well, our first focus of this service is the services that we currently provide services to and fulfill with, and then those new services that we're working on, new licensing and platform and technology licensing. Yeah. It's focused really around subscription services or interactive streaming, and also international firms that are trying to manage their rights in the United States. That's our core focus right now.
Yeah, and do you get a feel when you talk to publishers, for example, that there's a real play here because the publishers are not willing to really let stuff go, like they haven't really let stuff go in the past, but they feel like they missed out on some opportunities and they're not getting as much payment as they wish they did from some services. So maybe they're really trying to claw back at, in other types of licensing scenarios and try and get a fair deal that is somehow comparable to what the master owner is getting, whilst for other services that they're not at all.
Well, I think there's a couple different issues for the publishers. Number one, there's always the issue of getting paid and ensuring that there's accuracy. It's always a challenge in digital that the metadata challenge is still there. And so ensuring that the right people are getting paid the right amounts is always an issue and still a very large issue in the entire industry. The second is opportunities. The opportunities for the publishers to expand their distribution of their rights. So you see a lot of activity around sync licensing and ensuring compliance. So a publisher might license a media firm to create content around their compositions. Then there's a challenge of actually how that media company will pay. So you see, for example, videos on YouTube. Folks are using copyrighted material, and in some cases it's cleared, and in other cases it's not. All those firms have to find ways to pay the copyright owner. And a lot of times they're not unwilling to do it. They just don't know how to do it and who to work with in a way that's meaningful and simple. And so we see a lot of opportunities there. We've seen more and more discussion from both the publishers and the service side just to provide services that we really didn't expect, to be candid, around taking advantage of the platform we built to do that, to really match the compositions to the tracks.
And that's a huge job. And Of course, there are efforts being made like the Global Repertoire Database, but nobody's really sure as to when that's going to be completed and even who's going to be able to access it when it's done. So it's a big question mark right there.
It is. I think it would be, we would support the Global Repertoire Database because to us, it's around the services.
Yeah.
The database is a challenge to manage and maintain, but and if and when it happens, we view that as a positive thing. But it's a challenge to pull it all together.
Yeah, sure. And so for sort of 2013, what are the main objectives for the company?
Well, there's two big areas for us. One is continuing to build out our services around rights and rights administration, really about simplifying access to the markets for new services. It's what we do as a core business is providing those services, so it's only a natural. The other is we're getting a lot of demand and interest internationally. So we're offering services as far away as Romania, India, South Africa. Latin America is a push. We have still a strong amount of business in the United States, but we are pleasantly surprised about the amount of demand from companies in Malaysia and Singapore primarily around streaming services and supporting them in a variety of ways.
Great. And well, thanks so much for being on the show. Check out Medianet. I'll throw the links in the show notes of the video and on SoundCloud. And thanks so much for your time.
Thanks for having me. Enjoyed it.
Great.
Digital music.